Are you wondering how rivalry among your competitors is affecting your overall business? This video is for you. In this video, we will be introduced to Porter's 5 forces. The objective of Porter's 5 forces is to identify the risks that are relevant to your business's specific set of circumstances, and then to score these from low to high. This presentation will look at the first of these 5 forces, namely rivalry among competitors. In the videos that follow, we will consider each of the remaining forces one by one. Please be sure to watch them all in order to guarantee an overall understanding of Porter's 5 forces and how they affect your competitive landscape. With that, let's dive into the presentation. Previously, in video number 1, we were introduced to an overall strategic management framework, and more specifically, the first step in that framework, namely developing the strategy. Then, in video number 2, we focused in on the second part of that first step, namely strategic analysis. In video number 2, we identified 5 different techniques that would form part of our strategic analysis toolkit. This presentation will focus on the 4th technique, namely Porter's 5 forces. Porter's 5 forces comprise 1. Rivalry among existing competitors, 2. The threat of new entrants, 3. The bargaining power of buyers, 4. The bargaining power of suppliers, and 5. The threat of substitute products or services. In this presentation, we will look specifically at the first of these 5 forces, namely rivalry among existing competitors. Rivalry can be considered from 2 separate perspectives, namely rivalry intensity and price competition. The first point to consider within rivalry intensity is that competitors are numerous or equal in size and power. They will find it difficult to avoid poaching our business. In addition, without an industry leader, best practices will go unenforced. For example, in relation to lightweight finance, business schools already produce similar content, albeit not in a free online format. They may be tempted to enter the online space, but this would involve an overhaul of their business model. The risk is therefore relatively low. The next point to consider within rivalry intensity is that industry growth may be slow. This will lead to premature or unexpected fights for market share. For example, in relation to lightweight finance, the core business school concepts have been established and there is not much room for development. The quality of content will distinguish players in this space. However, there are consistently new industries and products being formed with new approaches to business, which may lead to new core concepts. The risk here is medium. The next point to consider within rivalry intensity is that exit barriers are high. These are the opposite of entry barriers. Examples include highly specialized assets or management's devotion to a particular business. These barriers keep market participants in the market even though they may be earning low or negative returns. Excess capacity remains in use and the profitability of healthy market participants suffer while weak participants remain in the marketplace. For example, in relation to lightweight finance, exit barriers are quite low. It costs nothing to stop producing online content. There will, however, be sunk costs on infrastructure already acquired. It is worth considering the opportunity cost of doing something else before investing. The risk, therefore, is relatively low. The next point to consider within rivalry intensity is that rivals are highly committed to the business. Examples include 1. State-owned competitors have goals that include employment or prestige. 2. Business lines of larger organizations participate in an industry for image or to offer a full suite of products and services. Or 3. Personality and ego reasons could be to the detriment of profitability of the organization. For example, in relation to lightweight finance, competitors in terms of content are typically business schools. They are highly committed to developing their courses and will invest heavily in ongoing R&D. Lightweight finance has a very specific niche focus on SMEs. This is a medium level of risk. The next point to consider within rivalry intensity is informational complexity. This implies that firms cannot read each other's signals well due to lack of familiarity or understanding of each other, diverse approaches to competing, or differing goals. For example, in relation to lightweight finance, competitors will compete in various ways and have alternative product offerings. Our content is specifically tailored for an SME environment with focus on substance, while business schools have a more generic but often corporate focus with the goal of providing career development and certification. This is a medium level of risk. Moving on to price competition, the first point to consider is products of rivals are similar or identical. We would need to consider whether switching costs are low for our customers. In that case, competitors would be tempted to cut prices to win over new customers. For example, in relation to lightweight finance, switching to other online content providers could be low if other content providers offer free online content too. Switching to business schools would have higher costs attached. This is an advantage to lightweight finance. The risk here is low to medium. Next, within price competition, we need to consider whether fixed costs are high and marginal costs are low. Competitors will be pressurized to cut prices below their average costs and marginal costs in order to steal incremental customers while making some contribution to covering their fixed costs. This is especially true if industry demand is not growing. For example, in relation to lightweight finance, fixed costs are low. Online content is made available for free and pricing competition is not a threat. This risk is low. Next, within price competition, we need to consider overcapacity. This happens when capacity must be increased in large increments to be efficient. This disrupts the industry supply-demand balance and can lead to periods of overcapacity and price cutting. For example, in relation to lightweight finance, producing content is managed based on demand. Content production workflows can be replicated or segregated. Hence, increasing capacity can be done on a relatively cost-effective basis initially. This risk is low. And finally, within price competition, we need to consider the perishability of our product. Perishability creates a strong temptation to cut prices and sell a product while it still has value. For example, in relation to lightweight finance, business school type content is not really perishable. The risk is therefore low. After considering all of these factors in relation to rivalry among existing competitors, we should consider how we will fight back. For example, in relation to lightweight finance, our strategy is very different from the business school model. This was driven by our Blue Oceans modeling, as discussed in video number 5, specifically so we can move away from rivalry among existing competitors. 1. We target SMEs. 2. Our content is freely available, so there's no price competition. And 3. Our R&D is driven by community engagement. And with that, we can prepare a scorecard for factors impacting rivalry among existing competitors, our first Porter force. Overall, in the case of lightweight finance, our scorecard has an average risk level of low to medium. This is consistent with our Blue Ocean strategy discussed in video number 5. We can now see how some other techniques we are applying from our strategic analysis framework are working hand in hand with Porter's forces. And so, we have finalized our first of Porter's 5 forces. However, we will need to consider all the forces as they interact with each other and are applied to our organization simultaneously. In this video, we were introduced to Porter's 5 forces, and specifically to the first force, rivalry among competitors. This force identified numerous factors to consider in relation to both rivalry intensity and price competition. By now, you should have realized that as we progress through our overall strategic analysis framework introduced in video number 2, we are doing a thorough deep dive into many aspects of our strategy. You should be methodically documenting your findings. Remember, they will all form part of your final strategic plan. In the next video, we will move on to Porter's second force, namely the threat of new entrants. If you enjoyed this content, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and click on the notification bell. It helps us grow the channel and bring more content to small and medium business owners and managers. Also, be sure to check the description below for any related product affiliate links. And finally, please comment on the video or click on our community tab to further interactions and updates.